hello. Is anybody here? Is anybody out there? We'll find out. Let's take a quick peek. Hello, it's CyberBuzz Radio and basically Patient Zero and Ron. Oh, Lord. Why am I still doing this show? Hopefully, I will be able to lure a couple more people in back to the days when we were bumping, we were having great conversations and a whole lot of fun. Hey, Mascara, good to see you. So where on earth were you listening or hanging out, or where are you live? I see quite a few people are actually hopping in across all the different streams. My name is Crimson Clad, and this is CyberBuzz Radio. And wherever you may be right now, it is that time for me on weekends to entertain you, hopefully with, from Twitch. Okay, there we go. All right, fair enough. Discord. I don't even know where you're watching. Oh, and then we're talking about Breeze, not even what I was playing. Okay, good to know. Good times for all. Laying in your sofa. Oh, good. So it'll be interesting to see how things for you are in Germany. I know everybody around the world has opinions of the absolute insanity of the world right now, but knowing that is happening, it's always good to hang out with your friends and spend some time having good conversation. It's gonna be like that for the next little bit. Phantom honk syndrome. That's right, Leonis. Hopefully some people will take pity on us and will come and hang out for the show. So yeah, CyberBuzz Radio is a love affair with the retro future. We talk about blockchain, VR, AR. We talk about the technology that feels like it came from a time in the past that is shaping our future that we're moving towards. And it used to be heckin' bumpin'. So, if you're one of the people who still hang on week to week and still come out, then let me know what you like best. Let me know what keeps you around, and I will work my hardest. Hey, Houday! On keeping the show entertaining and bringing more and more people in, or any people back. Jesus Christ. So, it is another week, and Last week was a weird show. Last week we didn't spend as much time talking about tech stuff as we normally do, and we actually did spend a lot of time talking about philosophical stuff happening around in the world. So I was talking a little bit about my personal sort of takes on self-sovereignty needing to be paired with social responsibility, and we delved a little bit into what's been happening in Canada, and I shared some of my sort of personal feelings, i.e. sadness around just the fact that people are mad right now. People are mad at each other, and it's been hard to watch that in Canada. And of course, here we are a week later, and it's the entire world. We knew it was coming. We knew it was going to happen. And now the whole world's in that spot. So depending on where you are, I'm trying to get these tangles out of my hair so you guys can at least, for those of you who are watching instead of listening, you maybe will not immediately be driven away. But so the idea is, last week we talked a lot about the feelings of people and the interconnectedness of people, and sort of my take on it as a Canadian, because of course that was what it was. You like my hair. Thanks, Patient Zero. I have no idea if you're watching. It's literally, Discord is so difficult now. This is the one thing that has been kind of like hard with the radio aspect of things, is for a lot of people, they do like to watch, or they do like the stream experience, or they like a different interface than Discord. And these days, I can't see anybody in Discord. So it's 50-50. I know for a fact that I've driven away half of my audience. And then the other 50 is they're spread out across all different platforms. But the reality is watch or listen from wherever that makes you feel happy. And hopefully I will find a topic that will be entertaining enough to keep you around. So that's that. Today, we're in a time and a space where it's really, really difficult to know what is actually happening, right? It's so strange that we live in this insanely, oh, Eileen, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in ages. We live in a world where it's really difficult already to distinguish what is real from fake. And part of that is a lot of the future retro tech that we talk about that is becoming a reality now. Augmented reality, virtual reality, incredible sort of content created by massive networks of powerful computers, bots, agent, saboteurs and provocateurs. It's a wild world. And so, of course, here we are, one more week. Well, and Eileen's been making some great content recently, too. It's almost like people have lives. It's crazy. How dare you? How dare you? So, the reality is that this week I thought we would talk a little bit about AR and VR. Hi. I always say your name wrong. Ask us. Whatever. I'm happy to have you. So the deal with this week is I thought I'd talk a little bit about augmented reality again. And I know we do that a lot. We do. It's a great topic for this show. It intermeshes so much with many of the things that we talk about, even from the Hive blockchain and beyond. But so I figured we'd talk a little bit about that and some of the stuff that's happening in the AR and VR space, because I am hoping that we won't spend too much time on war stuff. And obviously it's important. Everybody's thinking about it, and wherever you might be in the world, you probably have a pretty strong opinion on how you're feeling about the geopolitical situation right now. And as I was leading into it at the start of the show, we've never been more digitally connected. Never. It's never happened. But at the same time, we've never had more ineffective tools for dealing with the glut of information that is presented to us. That is problematic on a number of levels. Clearly. Hey, Rebecca, I haven't seen you in a while, but I saw you said good morning this earlier today. It's awesome. I hope you are fabulous. So, the reality is we just we just struggle to deal with the incredible amount of information that is thrown at us at all times. And that is, it's problematic, because we never thought in this day and age, when we have so much coming at us, the ability to finally see what's happening on the other side of the world, it's a little different than previous iterations of global conflict. And we've been saying this since Vietnam, right? Is that we simply don't know what's happening. And wouldn't it be better if we knew the truth of what was happening? Wouldn't we be happier and, more capable of making decisions and working together if we had more information? Well, now we've got more information than ever, and that is problematic. So for me, this week has been absolutely an interesting and emotional week. Hey, Mr. D. For me, for sure, because my family background is, or at least on one side, is Ukrainian. And it's hard knowing that the country has certainly struggled. Oh, Clay, a pity listen. I'm stoked to have you. Thank you.
Do you have to read this on air?
What was that nonsense? Oh, Lordy. All right. So thanks for the T-Fuel donation, Ron. The pity donation on top of the pity listen. So, here's the deal. It's definitely been an interesting thing for me the last little bit, because one half of my family is Ukrainian. Yeah. Text to speech. If over a certain donation, if you want to... Oh, goodness gracious me. If you want to do it, it'll read. It'll totally read. So, yeah, one half of my family is Ukrainian, and that's a pretty proud heritage for us, and we are a people who know hardship. And so, it's difficult being in Canada of Ukrainian stock, knowing that there has been a lot of sort of proxy war posturing happening between the US and the rest of the world and Russia. And it's interesting. And another aspect of my family is Polish. And of course, Ukraine shares a border with Poland. And so if you've been watching or reading the news a lot, then you would have seen, Poland is rendering a lot of aid, and, Poland is accepting migrants and a bunch of stuff that's happening there. And of course, when you start thinking about it, Ukraine is a direct pathway from Russia to Poland. So yes, it's absolutely altruistic, but it's also, Poland is very mindful of what the fall of Ukraine could mean for them. So it's very interesting, because I have a lot of family in Poland now, like a lot of family, like half my family. And the other half of my or, the other aspect of my family fled Holodomor in Ukraine in the 30s, I guess it was. So the reason that I'm here today is because my family actually fled Ukraine, and that was a Russian and Ukrainian conflict as well. The Russians came to Ukraine and essentially starved out all the farmers, took all the food. It was a manufactured famine, and a lot of people died. So the reason that I am Canadian is because my family came in the 30s from Ukraine and settled in the plains of Saskatchewan. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see. It's horrible to see. It hits home a little differently because, of course, as a Canadian and, above and beyond that, as a Ukrainian, it's been a disappointing last little bit. Can I say? It's a bit disappointing. So, I'm willing and I'm hoping, I know some of you guys are going to want to talk about this, and we can if you want. And of course, there are other shows like Ron's Clown World and other shows on MSP Waves that are much more political. I'm not really political in as much as this particular show talks a lot about the technology and the impact it has on us as humans and the way that we are interconnected globally. And whether we like it or not, tech is a big driver of geopolitical relationships. So, we'll see where we're at over the course of today. We'll see what you guys want to talk about, and we'll see what topics bring you guys some joy. And we'll listen to some music as well, because last week we didn't get a chance to listen to a lot of music. And believe it or not, this was at one point an all Hive blockchain and all Synthwave show. Is it anymore? Absolutely not. All right. So, for whomever may come back, I mean, one of these days I'm going to lure you guys all in, and it's going to be a bustling, hyped up chat again. But until those days come back, I have to drive it all. And I do have some topics that I want to share with you guys today. So if you're just here for a chill listen and you want to kind of just get a feel for the stuff that's been on my radar, then that is no problem. I've got actually quite a few topics that I would love to talk about. So I'm going to grab those now. I'm just going to double check that everything looks like it's running all right. I was sure I pressed the Vim go time button. Did I? It doesn't look like I did. So let's just take a peek. Maybe somebody will be able to check and just see if everything looks live on the blog. But with that being said, some of the stuff that's been coming up a lot and that we've been talking about a lot, Techie Canada. Yeah, do I want to get into this? Do I want to turn this into another massively depressing kind of tirade against some of this stuff? It's interesting because this is one of the reasons that I've had no interaction with the vaccine passport. And a lot of that came from, hey, you know what? Guess what? I do not want this information to be collected, because anytime that you have to log in, scan in, whatever, it's cataloged and it's part of a large data set. So let's move away from the actual vaccination aspect of it, because of course that's going to be its own thing. But here in Canada, I have not attended anything that requires a digital sign-in. I don't have the app on my phone. I don't have any of that because I refuse to participate in it. And of course, halfway through this whole thing, the Canadian government swore up and down, if you installed the app on your phone to do the beepy boopy scanny thing, that they wouldn't do anything with that information. Nothing at all. All it would be a check and balance system for businesses to be able to know at a glance whether or not, you were vaccinated. But of course, it came out last year quietly that absolutely the government was collecting this information and was actually analyzing it to determine movement patterns of people in society. Surprise, surprise. This is one of those things where, a lot of people say, well, I don't care. The government knows where I'm going already. And you know what? You're not wrong. The absolute ability of a phone to have an impact on, data collection about you cannot be understated. But in this case, you added an extra app and a direct pipeline to the government to begin sort of plotting data points on a map about you. And a lot of people don't think about this, and it's not to drive you insane or, make you fearful, but just remember, And we've talked about this on the show, that it is fascinating what can be inferred about you simply by collecting a large enough data set. Now, we know that our phones can be triangulated off towers. We know that the second we turn one of these fuckers on and we make a call, we make a text, whatever, it bounces off a cell tower, and they know the rough area that we're in. But that's the telecoms, and the telecoms will, sell that information if they need to. If you have an app that's allowed to look at your location data, if you keep your location on, which a lot of people do because Find My Phone or whatever. Lots of people keep location services on. And, the reality of it is we feed all that information to apps, to providers, to services every day. But one sort of area or one sort of group that we didn't directly feed it to was the government. The government actually did, for a little while there, have to go through proper channels to get this information about you. And in fact, not only did they have to go through the proper channels, often what they would get would be sort of a distilled group of records from one of these other apps or service providers or whatever, cell phone providers. They would get a rough cohort that you would fall in a larger data set. But here we are, unfortunately, with the vaccine passports, and a lot of them are just easy peasy app downloads onto your phone. Yep, sure enough, a direct pipeline of all of your information and all of your movement data to the government. So, if you are still carrying one of these convenient passports on your phone, consider just printing out a PDF, popping it in your wallet at the very least, and carrying it with you, because this is the kind of thing that, whether or not you're paranoid, whether or not you think you have something to hide from the government, please stop giving them everything on a platter. They are beholden to you, and there needs to be sort of some mindfulness in your life about that. But I digress. It's just a related topic to some of the things that we were talking about today, I'm sure. So, with all that being said, before this immediately does turn into an episode of Clown World, and because I do hope that I get a couple more people, although big shout out, I see people hanging out all over the place. I see people over on Twitch. I see Theta. I see Trovo. It's awesome to have you guys. So I figured maybe we would talk a little bit about some of the stuff that is happening with VR and AR today. Just because, you know what, we haven't really focused solidly on that topic in a couple weeks, and it's always a great fit. Hey, Stace, good to see you. Now, it's funny, Stace is here. Stace is a big gamer, and I know lots of us, we often do talk about games on this show, and I thought even briefly that we would talk about, see if anybody's excited about Elden Ring. So if you haven't seen that, it's a new game that's coming out, and it's a Souls-like, a Soulsborne game. So if you never did Dark Souls, that's okay. You don't have to be into it, but Elden Ring looks like it's going to be a gateway drug. It's for people who already like Dark Souls or Souls-like games, it's going to be just go time. And for people who aren't sure or who never really did totally get into the Dark Souls aspect, yes, you just got it today, atta girl, it's also going to be something that's available to you. So I'm kind of excited. We could talk a little bit about that. But one of the things that I was thinking about was, everything has been focused on Meta, the metaverse. Facebook has been making such a push to take over this space. They want the whole narrative and the whole idea of metaverse to be about Facebook. And of course, the rest of us are, either well-versed in it or in aspects of it that is, not Facebook. Many of us here are blockchain interested people or are, whatever. We're not big Facebook fans, but, recently I always look for great ports to VR, or I always look for games that I think could be enhanced by moving to VR, because of course we know VR in some ways is a little gimmicky. It's a lot like, do you remember when theaters first really started getting 3D? And every movie that was in 3D at the time would have like some explosion that, you know, very pointedly fired something directly at the screen. Like you could always highlight that moment in a movie, whether or not you were watching in 3D, you could always figure out what portion of the movie was created solely to look good in 3D, right? Like, you know what it was. Yeah, I'm Cyberpunk, Elden Ring, both on my list, but my list is so long and so untouched now. It hurts my heart. It absolutely hurts my heart. And you know, little bits and bobs as I get time, I have been just kind of like submerged in Skyrim VR, and I may never come back. And yes, I am part of the problem. Yes, I'm a Bethesda basic bitch. Yes, we've had this conversation before. Don't come for me. But, you know, I've always looking for great ports to VR because part of this show, well, it's not VR centric, is we often talk about why VR heightens different experiences. And a lot of people say it's escapist, or, you know, in the crowd that we often get in the Discord, especially, people are like, fuck you, Crim. VR is the devil. It's absolutely terrible. You're the worst. You want us to all be in the battery pods, eat the babies, eat the bugs. Like, it usually spirals out of control, but I enjoy the fact that I can talk a little bit about VR without it becoming a total disaster. And, you know, one of my favorite parts of VR is looking for ports that that really take advantage of the immersiveness of VR. And not all games need that. Truthfully, they're really not, especially atmosphere games and games that do a lot of work building environment. They are really great options. Yeah, Tarkov, I have a love-hate affair with shooters in general, but Tarkov, while I appreciate a lot of it on like a personal level, I love how realistic it is. I love that you can't just get like shot 62 times in the face, and if you crouch behind a box long enough, you'll be okay and it's fine. There's so much, like, you die and somebody takes your stuff. Like, there's so much about Tarkov that is challenging and frustrating and realistic enough, and also immersive. Like, yeah, Tarkov is definitely a high bar. The problem is there's massive amounts of cheating in Tarkov. And every time they do a ban wave, and every time they sort of put like IPs together, I'm not suggesting that certain countries are more susceptible to cheating, but they are, and they suck. That helps a little bit, but there are certain points of the day where you cannot play Tarkov. You can't. You simply cannot. You just can't. And that's problematic. And this is problematic in a lot of shooters. And maybe this is an entire show one day is game cheating. Cheating, yeah, like hackers, like, you know, all sorts of shit. But especially aimbots. Yeah, it's bad. It's really, really, really bad. And trust me, and again, I'm going to get called out. I'm going to get canceled. If you have ever entered a game during the time where sort of the Chinese bloc is playing Tarkov, you will know, and you will never want to play Tarkov again. It's pretty bad. But that's not where I'm going. So one of the things that made me laugh is there are two things specifically that I saw this last week that I thought, boy, this is great. Now, you know, I'm telling you guys, I don't know. I thought I clicked the Vim button, but I don't know if I can see a post, and I'm trying not to turn away from the actual live show just to see if it's going, but it looks like it hasn't. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna clicky the button. I'm gonna hopefully see if it'll work. Did it post? I don't know. We'll find out. And you guys can let me know. And if I double posted, I'm literally going to kill myself. So here's the deal. One of the things that I have seen that is getting good reviews, and that seems to be, to me, one of the best uses of AR and VR in gaming, and the ports that I've seen that are really good, would be horror games. So I don't know. And every time I say horror, everybody laughs at me because they think I'm saying horror games. There it is. 30 seconds ago. It's just showing up with a terrible face. So horror games obviously are immersive at the best of time. The experiences that we play in horror games, they're usually they're usually really effective because of environmental aspects. Whether it's sound design, whether it's visual design, whether you're just like me and a jump scare is what will get you more than anything else. Horror games are kind of the thing to port into VR. But one of the ones that's getting a really great review, and I would argue is probably one of the sort of best games to do. If you haven't seen this, then there is the Resident Evil 2 and 3 in VR. And so this is a modded aspect. So for those of you who play VR, great. If you don't, no big deal. But I thought I'd put this out there because this is something. Resident Evil games and Resident Evil 2 and 3 are something else. Now, last year, I think they put an official VR. Yeah, Dead by Daylight is terrifying to me. I'll never play that. I'm not brave enough. But so, last year, Resident Evil 4, they actually put out an official VR port, but people obviously wanted those early games. So Resident Evil 2 and 3, and I've been talking to a bunch of people who've been playing Resident Evil 2, and they say that it is perfection. So, that's one game. But the other one that made me laugh, a game that would be heightened, how would people feel about it? Would it be a good fit? What would be a game that, would transcend cultures, whatever? What's something that everybody's playing, that everybody loves, that have become a whole fucking phenomenon? And that would also actually have something added to it by being in VR. And I saw this, I'm probably late to the party and, whatever, but I'm sharing it with you guys anyways, because I never really got into Among Us. I know that Among Us was, obviously, it took the world by storm, especially during the pandemic. There was this hilarious, stupid game that was all about sort of either working together or lying to the people around you, sneaking around. You are no longer, it doesn't matter what you look like. You don't get an avatar. You're just a color. You're just a little armless weirdo blopping around on a spaceship. And, everybody gets to decide who they're going to airlock turn to turn. But so just recently it was announced that they're going to make Among Us as a VR game. And this, to me, the more I think about it, this is a brilliant idea. This is really, really fun. It's a great idea. Because, of course, one of the trickiest things about party games in general, and games like this, where everybody is working together, but there's a saboteur, this is a very traditional game trope, is everybody's playing the same game, and somebody is the hidden mole or spy or saboteur or whatever. I mean, from the beginning of time, whether it's Clue or you're doing one of those evening of murder parties or whatever, the hardest part is keeping your face under control. Not everybody is a good liar. And so one of the fascinating things about this game is it put you in this stupid little avatar and it let people from all around the world start playing this ridiculous game, murdering each other in dark corners. And it was fun and it was hilarious. And it was, it became this cultural thing that took over parts of the pandemic. Even though you're not hanging out with friends, you could play a game with friends, just incredibly low barrier to entry. And the more that I thought about this and hearing that there'd be a VR remake of this, you don't have, once again, you don't have a lot of aspects of you that comes through that VR experience. You don't have to worry about a face. You don't have to worry about an avatar. You don't have to worry about what your arms are doing if you're a twitchy panic liar. But one of the most fun things about Among Us VR is the fact that often what you see is the top-down view of the game. You kind of get the idea of where other players are, but of course, you're trying to keep track of who is where and whatnot. And top-down, as you understand the environment, It gets a little easier to watch all the spaces, complete all the tasks. Here is the same game, the same fun, the same ridiculousness, but you are plonked down in that environment and your interaction with that environment is going to change. You're no longer able to sort of survey top down an entire chunk of the spaceship. You gotta wander around and you're going to have the visuals that a headset would allow you to have if you were in that space. And it's adorable. And it's going to make the game a lot harder. Imagine for a second that you really, if somebody, you got to back into a corner in a room, what are you going to do? How would your gameplay for Among Us change simply with this perspective change, this change into first person? You have to start treating the environment differently. And I love this. I love this because I think it adds a whole new aspect to this game. It's the same game. Nothing changes. There still is no real, I was going to say no real skills that you need to have, but the way that you play and the way that you'll experience a lot about this game will completely change just by going into this first person view. And, obviously you'll be able to play it. If you don't have a headset, you could still play from this view and it will still impact the feel that you get from the game. But in the headset, I suspect, knowing culturally how many people lost their collective shit playing this game, that it's really going to go through the roof when people start playing it in VR parties, VR streams, and sort of even more connection to this absurd idea that you are an armless, little space bean running around hoping you don't get axe murdered in the dark corner of a spaceship. It's very it's delightful, and I think this will be a lot of fun. So I was thinking about this a lot today, and when this came up, I thought, oh boy, I better share it with you guys, because even if you're not a big VR enthusiast, this is one of those games that I think will be immensely heightened and increased by being ported to VR. There are a lot of games that just don't need it. It's not a better experience. It doesn't add anything. And in fact, in some ways is totally pointless. But this one, I feel will really gain something. So I don't know about you guys. I don't know if any of you guys are playing games. And for the people who are kind of chatting right now and who are hanging out, and whether or not you're here for a pity listen on the Discord, is there a game that you think like this one would be heightened by adding VR to it, or by changing the perspective that you play to a first person in headset view? I don't know. I was thinking about other games and I don't know that I could put my finger on one right now that would be better than Among Us. All right, so let me take a quick peek. I do have quite a bit of music today. I don't know what you guys are feeling like, because there are many, many moods. And if you were here before the start of the show, if you were listening to the intro on any one of the streams, then I was actually playing a track that kind of crosses over between Synthwave and metal, which of course are my two great loves. So if you were listening earlier, you would have heard a song by Nebula Orionis. And it basically was synthwave ambient black metal with like blast beats. So, I know Hypatia, Mascara, whomever was saying, oh, that's a great track. Yeah, it's awesome. And I highly, highly recommend it. They don't have a bunch of tracks yet. They're kind of a new and up and coming synthwave ambient black metal artist. Check it out. It's fucking cool. But so places we could go today. I have a lot of sort of like positive 80s style stuff, but as Synthwave is wont to do, I also have a lot of sort of dystopian future, the robots are gunning us down in the streets kind of stuff, which, you know what, maybe that's a little on the nose. Maybe right now nobody wants that vibe, and I would truly understand if that's where you were at mentally, because I feel like we're probably going to be in this vibe for a while. This is going to stick with us for a bit. So, given that no one person has answered me about the game and no one's answered me about the music itself, what I will do is, just to start, I will play a quick track and I will actually play some Croatian synthwave. Definitely synthwave is one of those genres that I feel like, anyways, to start, really had a very Western-centric perspective. A lot of just Western musicians creating this perfect slice of the American dream in the 80s that had this creepy, this creepy side to it that was very influenced by things like Blade Runner and Terminator, and the idea that as a human species achieving amazing technology, we were also achieving aspects of our downfall. So you know what? We're going to totally buck that trend. We're going to start with some Croatian synthwave, because why the hell not? We'll start with that, and we'll play something by Pocket Palma called Meni Nama. Do I know what the song is about? Absolutely not. Do I speak Croatian? No, sir. Do I do I love this kind of 80s upbeat positive pop vibe? Yeah. So you know what? That fits in great here. I will go rattle the trees on all of these streaming spaces. If you are listening now, I'm glad to have you. My name is Crimson Clyde. Today we're kind of talking about AR and VR and some of the aspects that it has on society. Let's face it, that's a common topic around here. But I do have some stuff. I want to talk a little bit about the impact of augmented reality on physical space, whether it's the physical space that we take up or the physical space that we need in the world, and how AR is going to have some impacts on that. So we'll see. We'll see if any of you are awake, paying attention, even caring. But regardless, if you have this on as some background music, then that's fine. I'm going to play you guys this track. It's called Meni Nama. My name is Crimson Clad. You're listening to CyberBuzz Radio. There we go. Let's pause that. So let's jump back to the chat. My name is Crimson Clad, and this is CyberBuzz Radio. And on Saturdays, I talk a little bit about disruptive technology, the retro future. I play synthwave music. Often I talk about the Hive blockchain, although in the last little while I haven't talked about it a lot. Just because, not because there's nothing going on, but just because usually the crowd that is here you can always tell what they want to talk about. And depending on the crowd that's here, kind of helps me shape my topics. And, the Hive crowd has not been here as much. So, I'm always trying to look to keep people as entertained as possible. But I do have a couple different Hive-centric shows coming up. I want to do a deep dive into the Hive application framework, the half. We have a hard fork that will be coming up soon. So I want to do some question and answer period with that. I want to do some troubleshooting for people who want to kind of get involved on the hard fork side of things. And then also, I keep promising we're going to do Deluxe again, because of course Deluxe and Steve have been creating a lot of stuff. There's a lot going on with the Speak Network. I know he wants to talk to people and kind of do some live show Q&A and things like that. So I've got lots of stuff on the docket for Hive. It's just who wants it and when? A big question nonetheless. All right, so before the break, I was talking a little bit about games that have been ported into VR and games that are heightened by the experience of being in VR. And, one of the topics that comes up over and over and over on this particular show, of course, is not just VR, but also AR. And, we talk a lot about sort of the way that we interact with AR and VR, and the way that changes how we think about sort of what technology can do for us, the way that we design technology, the design of sort of the design language of everything stems from what's possible with technology. And so on this show, a lot of the time we talk about future design, we talk about sort of retro aesthetics and how they've carried through all the stuff that we've created, and they've kind of changed our future. They've changed our future in the way that we create aesthetics. And so when I talk about AR, especially augmented reality, and the way that it can change how we design things, topics that have come up on this show before, if you guys remember, we've talked about training, the way that we even learn skills, how we do things like design peripherals, like do we use a physical keyboard in AR, or do we instead manipulate objects flying in space? Maybe they are overlaid on top of a physical item. Perhaps it's something like a HUD that we're used to seeing only in video games. We've talked a lot about that. And so today I thought one of the things that we should talk about a little bit is AR and the way that it changes our relationship with physical space. Now, one of the things that we talked about a couple weeks ago, if you were here, where we were talking a little bit about how cool the pass-through camera on VR headsets is, and pass-through cameras in general. We talked a little bit about a pass-through camera being essentially taking the place of a window or lenses in front of your eyes. A pass-through camera is like wearing a camera on your face, and that camera actually shows you what your eyes would see if the camera wasn't there. So, in the case of augmented reality and in virtual reality, a pass-through camera is incredibly useful because, of course, how do you interact with the world? You interact with what you can see, and you make sense of the visual information that you collect with your eyeballs. Now, when it comes to virtual reality, a pass-through camera is incredibly powerful because, of course, it allows overlaying an entirely new environment, and it lets you move in a space that doesn't exist, but that does. With augmented reality, it's even more interesting because it allows you to take what's physically in front of you and adapt it, change it, expand it, augment it. And, often as I'm out and about in the physical world, I think a lot about what augmented reality can do to change how we experience all of it. So the thing that got me thinking about this today, after we even had that whole show on pass-through cameras, and we were talking about sort of, isn't it interesting how we can interact with products or how we can interact with people, but in the space that we're physically occupying? The thing that got me thinking about this and kind of prompting today's topics for today's show is while I've been out and about and while I've been driving recently, that's right, there's phantom honking. Ron's going for full long honk. Just mute the radio show and he will listen to long honks far into the future. It's going to be a problem. Just wait, it's coming. But so the more that I kind of drive to get out to nature, and I'm very lucky to have it nearby, but often think about drives into rural areas, especially if you are leaving a city space. Augmented reality could have a real impact on the way that we do urban planning, which is wild to say that, but it's the truth. When you often leave sort of the primetime city area and you start driving towards rural areas, whether that's to find, to get out to nature, whether that's to take a road trip, or whether it is in a lot of cases, urban sprawl because people need places to live. The further you drive out of the city, what are some things that we tend to see beside highways? And this is a very North American thing, so sorry, Europeans. But as you drive out on a highway and you get further from cities, there are specific types of buildings in a lot of cases, or often there are very specific buildings that need land that are often grouped together. And if, you are lucky enough to not experience this, I am talking about the horrifically stupid invention of the auto mall. Yeah. So if you've ever looked around, I don't know if this is our growing consumerism or what, but one of the things that you will see insane fuckloads of these days are car dealerships. I don't know who's buying these cars. I don't know how we could possibly need so many cars. I don't know why the distance between car dealerships is so small. But this is a thing that I've certainly noticed in the area that I am in. Now, whether or not that's because I live in Vancouver, Canada, and, people here, if you can live here, maybe you have a certain amount of money or you have a certain mindset about, what you want in your life. But I always look around and I'm always flabbergasted by the amount of space in, our communities that is dedicated to cars parked on lots. What a waste. How stupid. And every time that I drive around and I see new construction, if it's not a block of high density housing, it is a lot being cleared for a new car dealership. And I cannot wrap my head around it. Who on earth is buying enough cars or is warehousing enough cars to make this worth it? But nevertheless, it is a thing. And I think often about, what do we do to make these spaces more functional? Why do we need to have spaces like this? Why do they exist? And in a lot of cases, it is because, hey, if you have a lot of cars, they take up a lot of space. Tough titties. You have the cars, you have the space. Make the space. But if you guys were here and we were talking a little bit about brand design and we were talking about, how products in AR can actually be almost more, you can learn more about them than you necessarily can, depending on what that product is and whether or not it's in the store. One of the toughest things in a lot of cases are when you do visit a store, it clicks and online store is one thing. We're kind of getting used to that shopping experience. But if you actually go back to a bricks and mortar store, a physical location, who fucking does that these days? If they don't have it, you're shit out of luck. There's no experiencing it. There's just nothing. And often what they'll do is they'll pull up the website and they'll show you pictures of a different color or, with a different trim level or, whatever. But people don't feel connected to that. They don't want to buy through that. And one of the things that I feel, now maybe this is just a me thing and I'll get your guys' opinion on it. One of the things I think that could change most drastically is, why the fuck do we continue to waste viable land space on every make and model and color and extra version of these vehicles that may or may not even be sold, may or may not even be leased, when in a lot of cases you could maybe downsize that to 25% of the same space, keep one of every model, one of every color, and call it a day. And people that want to come, if they want to drive one off the lot, they've got to drive one of the ones that's there. Otherwise, they order it from the factory or they order from another warehousing location. why don't we do this? And part of it is because nobody wants to buy a car they can't see. It really doesn't work. Nobody wants to buy a vehicle they can't sit in, they can't touch, they can't see the configurations. But the reality is, if you could sit in the white, why it gotta be white? The plain white car with the trim level you like, and then step outside, hold up a tablet or a phone, and then start throwing new paint jobs on that car, new visual trim levels on that car. The thing that requires us to have these gigantic fucking parking lots is the aesthetic side of things. People don't actually want or need. Yes. Terrible. But I mean, there you go. White was the only color they had. Oh, it's the launchers. It took me to the second of the get through Ron's meme in chat that he's talking about the Range Rover. Yeah, well, you know what? Listen, if you can have 4 whole lawn chairs, that means you have a lawn. So, my man, you have made it. But for real, this is one of those things where we spend so much resources, and we have to start thinking about it differently. We have to stop building these giant car lots. It's ridiculous. And one of the things that I feel like augmented reality especially can help with are these huge physical items that in a lot of cases people just can't visualize. AR is meant, and VR as well, AR is meant to help you visualize. It's absolutely what it's for. It's to help you better expand what is in front of you. And so for a lot of people, would you need to keep 50, 60, 70, 100 cars on a lot if you could keep maybe 15 to 20 of them and then also help people better understand by using something like AR? Because it's not the way it used to be. It's incredibly effective now, shockingly effective now in terms of looking real and helping you out. Now, and I mean, there's been even just, mobile AR, complete fake models, but I'm talking about actually just overlaying on an existing thing. But I mean, there are lots of these sort of apps where you get a chance to get a feel for, I want to build a car in real time and I want to look at all the different colors and I want to see what it looks like. There's lots of this happening already. And, what does it look like in this space? How much space would it take up? If it's something cute and sporty like the car I've, dropped in chat, it's smaller than me. Oh my gosh, I never thought I was going to have to sit down to get into this little clown shoe of a car. So, I mean, this is something that I think about a lot, especially in terms of CyberBuzz and this show specifically, because we often talk about how is the world going to change? What are these things that we have seen in the movies of the 80s, especially the idea of, you put on a pair of glasses and pick out your outfit from a hovering carousel, or, visualizations that you can then bring to life in front of you. It's happening now, and it's becoming the way that I think truly we're going to interact with pretty much all of the needs in our life. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But cars for me especially seem like this is the time, this is the place, this is specifically where we need to start really embracing this technology. Because let's face it, nobody needs more fucking car lots. Cars that sit out in the elements, that get vandalized, that have to be washed, every fucking day in the summer. You'll see some lot kid out there washing these useless piles of cars. It's a shocking waste of resources across the board. And it's one of these places where, as scary as some of this technology could be, man, it would change our lives for the better. God damn. I don't know. So I'm curious to know if you guys if there's sort of whether it's a retail aspect or a shopping aspect or something that we take for granted on a daily basis, a physical space that we have to have for one reason or another, that could be changed or made better by augmented reality or virtual reality. Curious to know. For me, car lots, man. And maybe I'm not getting it. If you think I'm an idiot and you think I'm wrong, tell me why. Because in my mind, they are the bane of urban areas, of cities, of, collections of people geographically. They're horrid. And I don't know if this is a North American thing. This could be a very different lens, you know, than what somebody it's from somewhere else in the world would be. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. AR is already winning integration into daily life. And we can talk a little bit about that. I'm going to play another track, but I actually have some examples because some of the things that I thought would take off in AR really didn't. And so it makes me wonder, what is it that's missing? What are we missing when it comes to, you know, this last bit of adoption? And it's a question that comes up a lot for crypto and everything else on this show. My name is Crimson Clad. This is CyberBuzz Radio. I am halfway through the show today. I do see that there are some of you here. Many of you are hanging out. Some people are chatting from around the platform, but overall it's a quiet day today. So hopefully I will at least get you thinking, keep you entertained. I'm trying to figure out, what do I want to play for you guys? Since nobody gave me any feedback on the music and nobody gave me any thoughts, you just get what you get. And since we were just talking about vehicles, I'm going to play you a track called Driving Dream by an artist called Synthwave. My name is Crimson Clad. This is CyberBuzz Radio. We're going to be continuing here on MSP Waves for another hour after this. right, there you go. So, hey, if you're here, if you're listening, if you're if you are a CyberBuzz enjoyer, if you are a CyberBuzz pitier, if you are just a friend of Crim, I'm glad to have you here today. So it's been a bit of a VR AR day again, and a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about has to do with the way that I kind of perceive AR changing, or at least opportunities for AR to change things. And so I started the show talking a little bit about my personal thoughts on what's happening geographically out there in the world. But so for the second half of the show, I do still have some great synthwave music that I have picked. And I've been sharing a bunch of different stuff. But, right before the break, Clay was saying, AR is going to gain acceptance way, way, way before VR. And certainly that's something we've talked about on this show before. And we always talk about Pokemon Go because people love AR, even if they don't realize they love AR. Pokemon Go is one great example. And there is another, of course, that we kind of forget that most people these days are using a huge swath of people, and that is Snapchat. People forget that Snapchat is indeed augmented reality. And in fact, I don't use TikTok, but I just found out the other day that, TikTok itself has its own camera inside the app, and there are a bunch of filters that you can apply to yourself. And in general, people often forget that something like filters on, the camera of your phone that are adjusting things in real time are to some degree augmented reality. So in a lot of ways, we have embraced aspects of augmented reality without knowing it, without feeling it, without admitting it. I'm not sure what the right terminology is, but of course, augmented reality actually has a crazy impact on the way that we view the world. So right before the break, I was saying, okay, well, car lots are the worst, and they crop up a lot, especially in North America. Why? I don't fucking know. We love cars. We're consumerist pigs. I don't know. Say what you want, but that for me is one incredible aspect of the world that could be changed immensely by augmented reality. But, on this show, we've often talked about these sort of great, hopeful, positive ideas like augmented reality tied to either biometrics or memories, using it like a time capsule, lots of different things, integrations with blockchain to create, special experiences specifically, unlocked by someone that you want to have it. But one of the things that, as we were just kind of talking about was this adoption that is happening of augmented reality. One of the things that's really interesting is there have been some spectacular augmented reality failures that I'll be the first to admit I did not see coming. And, one of the things that I showed you guys a couple weeks ago when we were talking about pass-through cameras was some incredibly cool footage of basically playing Minecraft, and the idea of using a pass-through camera on a VR headset to start digging holes in the earth around you. And then the processor of that pass-through camera and virtual headset working together to actually make you believe that you have dropped into that hole. That's wild when you think about it. And I'll try and find that footage if you haven't seen it. But when you think about what it takes to not just perceive the landscape in front of you, overlay a realistic visual experience on the landscape in front of you, and then to interact with it the way that you would physically with your body, the idea of taking the entire visual area in front of you, and if you were to step into a hole, what happens? All of that on the fly gets shifted upwards, and you're given this feeling of this realistic drop into a space that doesn't exist. And so, we were talking about Minecraft, and given that we are just mentioning there have been some pretty spectacular failures, Minecraft Earth, I don't know if you guys ever heard about this, but this was the idea of everybody fucking loves Pokemon Go. Everybody loves it. How could we go wrong? Everyone loves Minecraft. I know. We will create a mobile AR experience for Minecraft. Everyone can play together. Everyone can build together. We will geolocate, stuff you've built in Minecraft on a map. Other people can interact with it. We can all play together. What's not to love? That makes so much sense. And it was an abysmal failure. So I don't know if you even heard about this. I'm sure a lot of people didn't. But I've dropped an article in chat, and I'll put it in the show notes after today's show. But this was this was something. And what the team claimed was that COVID brought that to an end. But of course we know that's not true, because realistically, everybody was still out Pokemon going during COVID. You weren't allowed to go into buildings, but you certainly could spend time outside. And somehow, this idea of Minecraft Earth, it just never took off. Not the way that people expected it to. And I wonder why this is. What is the magic juju that Pokemon Go has that ideally Minecraft had? Minecraft, on every level, when we talk about what people love, what age groups play it, geographical adoption, the ability to run it on a phone, like everything about it, it should have been a fucking slam dunk. And yet, this was a huge AR failure. And so it ran for a bit, and they announced last year in January, well, not last year, God. Yes, last year? What year is it? In January of 2021, the team, the staff, the creators of Minecraft said, hey, listen, we're not doing this anymore. It's just not happening. Not enough people are playing. Not enough people are enjoying it. And so they end-of-lifed it last year in the middle of the year, at a time where more and more people were turning to being outside, were turning to their phones, were turning to being out in natural environments or out on the streets where they couldn't necessarily be in small groups in the house. But in the summer, spring and summer, specifically with COVID going on, how was this not a gangbusters thing? And I can't wrap my head around it. I've never really been a big Minecraft fan, and I've never played Pokemon Go. I mean, my Pokemon experience was high school. Growing up, and when I was, ending elementary school, that's when Pokemon was a thing for real. And of course, I had the old Game Boy, and I had, the old Pokemon games, and then I got a Game Boy Color, and I got Pokemon Yellow, and that was mind-blowing. But that was it. The sort of cultural phenomena that Pokemon Go is, and that invasiveness and pervasiveness of AR into everyday life, can it be explained? Do any of you guys use the game? Do any of you guys play the game? And what's the difference? What's the difference between Pokemon Go and other attempts at AR? Why have these failed so massively? And honestly, it's a question that I certainly haven't put my finger on yet. I truly am trying to understand, because people love Minecraft. God, I feel like one of those marketing execs that's like, people love A, people love B, let's just smash them together, we'll make tons of money. I feel like that executive that's out of touch. Because I can't figure it out. It's a fascinating thing. But maybe it is. Maybe it is the idea of immersiveness. Maybe it is simply that people who play Minecraft want to be able to build, more privately or on private servers. But one of the topics that I really did want to talk about today, and that I think is sort of tied to all of the ramblings that you guys have been listening through. So depending on where you're watching, and I see a bunch of you across the different streams and wherever you might be listening to the show today, there is sort of a thread through this, and it's the idea that physical locations matter, and augmented reality and what it can do for us changes depending on the physical location. And so, earlier we talked about, well, hey, we use a lot of physical territory in a lot of ways to warehouse things like cars or big ticket items. And, could AR help us break away from that need for physical space in a tangible location? My thought is yes. But here's the opposite of that. Here is the ability for AR to move us around vast spaces, to take us around outdoor spaces, to different parts of our city, to travel with other people. If you're a terrible video game player, they travel in packs. Wolves, master. Dragon's Dogma. Don't worry about it. But here's the opposite. Here are games that are helping us move more over, geography to help us take us from location to location. And so, that's kind of the gist of today's show is technology like AR and the sort of idea that location is important in our life in one way or another. Oh, hey, Lex, good to see you. And so, here we have massive successes, we have massive opportunities, and we have massive failures. One of the things that I think is really interesting, as I was just saying that, Snapchat is a form of augmented reality that is really, really popular. And that a lot of people have embraced without truly thinking of it as augmented reality. Snapchat in 2020, they released a feature that I'm not sure a bunch of people actually thought about. And this was something that that I think was announced in 2020. And I'm going to pull up a video and I'm going to play it quickly. It's a really quick 1-minute video, but it has a lot of sort of overlap with some of the topics that we've discussed on this show. And, when we talk about the idea of moving through a physical existing space and having it touch off geolocated experiences. That is something that Snapchat is doing. And a lot of us, of course, here in this particular group and around this particular show, it's kind of the stuff we avoid, but it's fascinating. So in 2020, one of the things that Snapchat really started pushing and that's been growing over the last year is location-based lenses. Now, what does that mean? Think about it. If you were somebody who's moving around, you were a Snapchat user for one way or another, a lot of people do use Snapchat as social media. We joke about it, and I often use some of its resources on this show for, filters to change the way I look. And we've talked about that at length. But if you go far enough back to, through Snapchat, it was like Instagram with an expiration date, right? I've never really used it, but I often forget that that's where Snapchat came from. And it's important to keep that in mind because location-based lenses are a really interesting thing. Now, we know for a fact that, most social media apps allow you to geotag. Hi, DJ Mikey Mike. Speaking of 2002, I read that as 2020. Guys, my brain is mush. But hi, hello, thank you. So here's the deal. We know that for a long time, you could enter your location data into social media, right? Facebook, Twitter, whatever, Instagram, you could tag it. And even here, if you're on the Hive blockchain, things like, say, have you been here? Like, boy, that name is spot on, isn't it? Have you been here? The idea that the next person traveling through this location could pick up something that you've left behind. Is it an image? Is it a blog post? Is it a tweet you made while you were here? Location data has often been something that technology uses specifically to bring people together and help them have shared experiences. So, without going down the dystopian road, Snapchat did something that I thought was very interesting and that has slowly been gaining steam. And that is building sort of a full AR experience on top of the world. Now, when we think of Snapchat, we think of, okay, you sent me a dick pic and it disappears in 2 days, but neener, I screenshot it, so now I have your dick forever. Like, for those of us who never got into Snapchat, that is still my mentality. I'm pretty sure, that's a Snapchat thing. And I think I mentioned once, my best friend went on a vacation and he texted me and he was laughing his face off because there was a girl on a tour that he was doing and she was taking all of her, yes, neener, I screenshot your wiener. Should that be the name of today's show? Neener, I screenshot your wiener. Oh, in a nasal voice, no less. Yikes. Heckin' yikes. But so here's this broad on this tour, and she's taking all her photos and whatever, and she took them all in Snapchat and wasn't paying attention, and of course didn't change any of the settings on them, and then wondered why all the fucking photos later on in that day, after everybody looked at them, why they disappeared. But Snapchat obviously has been building way beyond that, and lenses especially are essentially everything that Snapchat's about. And so one of the things that I thought was really interesting is that Snapchat has really kind of doubled down on the idea of geotagging lenses and creating what they called local lenses. And what that is an augmented reality world built on top of the world that we have today. And so a lot like we've been talking about, when you go through an actual physical location, you can start using lenses that somebody else has used, or you can all go to a specific space to use the same lens, but you have to go there to do it. You can't just experience this piece of augmented reality without physically being in that space. And there's something really interesting about that. So I'm going to quickly play a video here. Do I have it? I do have it. One sec. I'm going to quickly play this video, and then it's like only a minute long, and then we'll go from there. So let's just full screen this.
Hi, Key Pan here, computer vision engineer. My team at Snap works to help make our camera smarter so it can better understand the world around us. Last year, we introduced landmarkers, which enabled the Snapchat camera to understand individual buildings and allowed lenses to interact with some of the world's greatest landmarks. Now, we've continued to evolve the technology to understand and augment larger areas, unlocking exciting new capabilities. Using various sources of data, 360-degree images, and community snaps, we're able to build up a digital representation of the physical world, a point cloud representing the geometry of the surfaces around us. Combining this with 3D reconstruction, machine learning, and distributed cloud compute, we're able to map whole city blocks. Meet local lenses. Now, Snapchatters can join a persistent shared AR world built right on top of the physical one. You and your friends can step into these worlds together, collaborating creatively and experiencing a whole new dimension of AR. As our team continues to build these new worlds, we hope you enjoy experiencing the power of them.
So there you go. I mean, that's a lot to unpack in a 1-minute video. And this is not necessarily pro Snapchat, because if you guys know my thoughts on facial data recognition and things like that, hey, Alpha Gino. But there are some really beautiful ideas and really sort of positive ideas in there. And once again, I mean, so what they're basically saying is, before, it used to be like we created a lens that if you pointed it at a landmark that we recognize, like the Eiffel Tower, for those of you who are listening and couldn't see it, there is a location lens that is specifically, it looks for the Eiffel Tower. And when you hold your camera up to take your selfie, in the background, lightning will strike and a moon will rotate and the sky will change. And, what you're seeing becomes augmented. And this was a really cool idea. Find these landmarks that everybody travels the world to see. Find these buildings and these spaces and these places that we share as humans, that we've built from the ground up with our hands, augmenting them with tech in fun and weird and exciting and shared ways. That was very cool. This is a very interesting thing. Why? For no reason other than to bring joy, to bring delight, to bring surprise or beauty or art. Literally that. And of course, to track your movements through an app and sell the data. As we mentioned at the start of the show. But again, put the dystopian stuff to the side for a second. So since that time, things have been building, things have been growing, and the capability of geomapping, mapping data, 3D visualization, the power of neural networks it's continuing to grow. And so again, if you aren't watching, some of the lenses that they were suggesting and some of the things that you can do in this augmented reality space, they call them persistent shared worlds. And what that means is these experiences that anyone can build, because a lot of the Snapchat sort of monetization model is they allow you to create lenses. They give you a whole software suite and an API to let you build things. Realistically, Snap and this Snap Cam and Snapchat and the app itself, they provide certain experiences and certain really high tier lenses, but the vast majority of content is contributed by users. It's fucking brilliant. They only have to produce, a small portion of new content at a time. And everybody else contributes wildly creative ideas that they want to see. And of course, Snapchat gets a cut because more and more people are using it, experiencing ads, more data to sell. It's not hard to see why it's become so pervasive. But in that video, if you were just listening along, in that video, they showed, some city streets that look like someplace in Europe or whatever, cobblestone streets and older buildings, and a group of, trendy, diverse friends in very, good-looking people of all different body shapes and sizes, wearing fun clothing and whatever, being of representative colors and age groups. They all step into this alleyway, and with their phones, they start actually painting the space around them. And because they are friends on Snapchat, they start seeing the same things through their phone. And it's, when you think about it, divorced from all of the sort of technocracy bullshit, how absolutely fun would that be? Traveling the world with people you love, or meeting new friends, going to a place and interacting with the environment around you digitally, spraying graffiti on the walls that only your friends could see, doing a paint by numbers color on the side of a giant building, and you and your friends like monkeys just drawing together, or whatever, artistic, creative, exciting things that you have to be physically present to experience. And not only do you have to be physically present in a specific location or space, other people can interact with you in that space. Use these lenses. You can go, dancing down a staircase and have all of the stairs light up under your feet, or whatever. These fascinating, fun, completely pointless, joyful location lenses, how we share these spaces, and, the way that we experience what we like to do together. What is beautiful? What is enjoyable? How do you want to share or view this space? And to me, that's so powerful. And I say this as somebody who hates Snapchat. I hate it, but it comes up on this show a lot. The reality is when you cover these topics, you have to kind of embrace the good and the bad. And the more media literate and app literate and technocracy literate you are, the more you can engage with the aspects of these things that are fun and choose to kind of back up from the things that scare you or that you don't want to participate in. But yeah, Lax, this is a big one. Curated tours your friends could download, made by real people who live in these cities. So we could share secret messages on walls on Snapchat. Hey, it's fun. We played some Croatian synthwave earlier. It's the closest thing I've got. I know it's not correct, but that's at least some Euro synthwave. That was amazing, but good to see you. So, yeah, these are these fascinating things, curated tours that you can download. This is already absolutely a thing. And, we actually, in the past, we've talked a little bit about, imagine tying that to something like a memo key on the Hive blockchain where, you could create that for someone and it would live, in an immutable form, the information that could only be unlocked by the time that you get there by a certain date, executed by a smart contract. Crazy fun, cool stuff. But these curated tours, not on Trovo today? I am on Trovo. What are you talking about? I am on Trovo. It was live. I was sure it was. That would explain why people are quiet over there. It's supposed to be. Yeah. No? How curious. All right. Good point. Sorry, Groff. I connected it. Everything said it was working. I'm not 1,000% sure why Trovo isn't showing up. Sorry, Trovo fam. That sucks. I'll look into it after, but just checking it out. If we jump over to the dashboard here, everything looks fine. Oh, you know what it is. The stream keys regenerated, and I'm pretty sure they regenerated yesterday or today. So you know what? That is 1,000% my fault. I suck and I'm sorry. All right, so sorry. We'll have to. I'll explain on air. So there you go. Yeah, the problem 1,000% on my end. You know what? I knew this. Trovo sent out an email. Remember to readjust your stream keys. I didn't do it because I suck. All right. So sorry, Trovo fam. That will be corrected for next week. Promise. But yeah, so we're talking a little bit about what is possible between physical location, shared experiences, and where augmented reality is going to come into that space. And, you know, the start of the show was not necessarily negative, but talking about a lot of these negative aspects. And now we're kind of moving into the second half of the show, and I'm talking a lot about positive, connective possibilities and opportunities for AR to allow us to change some of the ways that we interact with the land around us. And so, you know, my big thing before the break was talking about why the fuck do we have car lots, car dealerships the way that they are? It's ridiculous. So yes, the chat is working. So the long and the short of it really comes down to augmented reality. As Clay was saying, I truly am on the same sort of tack as him. Augmented reality is already very well embraced by people, but we just don't think of it, and we don't think of the expansiveness of its possibilities quite as clearly as we could. So for me, this was a really fascinating thing that is becoming more and more prevalent. A 3D internet. That's a great way of putting it, Patient Zero. Arguably, the internet now is 2D. For sure, you're right. We have internet 3.0. We have this sort of read and write ability. Hi, the tiniest of corn dog. Hi. But, you know, we do. We have Web 3.0, but we don't necessarily have a fully 3D aspect of the internet. And what if you could? Oh, you've got the best emojis, my man. You know, what if you could start mapping these internet of experiences, this internet of things, these connections that we build and the value that we create and the friendships and whatever, the communities that live online? What if you could take that and overlay that on top of the real world? And so, I mean, there's some really amazing stuff that's possible here. And so especially in this day and age where, you know, we start the show talking a little bit about what's happening politically and the difficulty that we have in this unprecedented time of information and connections. The fact that, you know, you can potentially have somebody live streaming from a war zone, the uncertainty and the problems that come with that, and the fact that there's so much trouble yet that, like, how is it that we are so connected and we are more susceptible than ever to fake news? God, that word, you know, problems of understanding that information. We could collect it. Yay, thank you. Mwah. You know, we could collect that information. The problem is we're having trouble interpreting it now. So we started there and we've kind of moved through a bunch of topics, and we've come back to the end of the show with it being a very hopeful and positive aspect. There are uses for augmented reality, and there are the really cool things that are happening that are for nothing other than beauty and fun. All right, so Mariana was saying that you want to try augmented reality on your artwork. So there are a couple out there, and there's at least one that I recommend the most. And actually, I think Marco's here. Marco has used it. I'm going to pull up a link for you. So what I'll do is I'm going to quickly play another Synthwave track. What did I just play? I just played Driving Dream because we were talking about so many cars. I'm going to pull up another Synthwave track. What do you guys feel like? Do you feel like something upbeat and kind of dancey techno leaning? Or are we more like straight up the robots and the neural nets will eat us and we're all going to die? Because on any given CyberBuzz day, during any given show, we kind of flip back and forth between the two. We're never 1,000% sure where we land. We're all like, yeah, let's party. The future is cool. I have some shades and I'm wearing neon and it's a Lambo. And then the other half of it is like, also, the computers have become sentient and they're going to wipe us out and we're definitely going to die. And you know what? Both of these things are true. And that's okay. Upbeat. All right. So one of the sort of longest running kind of over the top, you wanted robots, but let's go upbeat. We can do all. I mean, we can do it all. We've got time. We got about half an hour left in the show today. One of the artists that comes up a lot, and especially sort of in the very like traditional synthwave genre, is Scandroid. And a new remix was just created for the track Phoenix. You know what? We're going to do that. It's definitely got a little bit more bounce to it. My name is Crimson Clad. This is CyberBuzz Radio on Saturdays at this time live, whether you're listening on MSP Waves or any number of streaming solutions, including blockchain and decentralized options like Vim TV, Theta TV are the two big blockchain ones, or something like Trovo. Wherever you may be, we talk about blockchain, disruptive technology. We sometimes go over stuff that's happening on Hive, but a lot of the time we talk about the stuff that we dreamt of in the 80s. This retro future idea, these ideas that started out in books and bled over to TV and movies, that bright neon, dirty concrete, Blade Runner, Neo Tokyo kind of aesthetic that has shaped an entire genre of music like synthwave, and also has really changed the way about, you know, the world, whether it is how we invent things, the design aesthetics of our future, all of it. So it's good. You're in a we are all gonna die kind of mood. But I mean, here we are talking about all the fabulous things that we can do out there in the world with other people, the beauty that is possible, and the joy that comes from just creating stuff just because it's fun. Literally. No other reason, but just because it's fun. It's one of the greatest things that humans are capable of. All right, so I love it. Oh my goodness. Mr. Tiny Corn Dog he's premium. All right, so we're gonna do this. We're gonna play this Scandroid track, and then we'll be back after that. And for the last little bit of the show, there are a couple of other things that I do want to share with you. And since we were talking a little bit about the robots and the aliens and the neuro networks and art and beauty and like weird fun aesthetics, that's probably the direction we'll go before the end of the show. Here you go. It's a new release, a brand new remix on CyberBuzz Radio.
From the ashes you will rise.
So that is an older track called Phoenix, but remixed by somebody called Kaizo. It's good. It was just released. It's good fun. It's upbeat. It's very like sort of like Euro trash, somebody on way too many drugs in a basement in like Austria with a bunch of like, I don't even know. It's just, you know, when you see those gifs of like European guys who are just tripping fucking triangles out of their mind, that's that type of track. Oh, okay, cool, fun, Mr. Tiny Corn Dog. So here's the deal. Yes, that is exactly it. Thank you, Marco. And I literally went to go get the link during that song break, and then I ended up fixing the Trovo instead. So yeah, Art of Vive is the one, or Art of Vive is the one that I know of, that I think, honestly, it works the best. It's most accessible. It's free. The mobile app is very easy to use. That's the one that I know of that for the most part, if you want to sort of jump into augmented reality, specifically with the idea of augmenting a photo, a piece of artwork, a flat surface, you know, sort of freely, that is art specific or photography specific, Art of Vive is the one that I was going to suggest. So you can do it. You got it. And yes, that track Phoenix, for those of you who are feeling in a very fatalistic mood, it is about a resurrection, a rise, a triumph, and just fucking getting back on the horse, man. So, you know, I see more people are joining us, and I'm looking across all of the platforms right now. And of course, Discord is tough because not everybody likes to just listen. Some people just listen on the radio station. And so I'm kind of like, I'm kind of always like, fuck, I don't know how many people are here, but I did a quick count and there's like 20 something of you. So that's great. It's a quiet show, but it's still a good show. I'm glad to have you here. And I recognize I'm so annoying about it. When I'm tired and crabby, I make these snide comments, which of course, then you guys don't want to be here for that. So when I get negative and shit, call me out on it. I'm awful. But at the same time, you know, it is what it is. I sometimes think about Saturdays and I'm like, man, there is a mountain right there that I could be climbing. But instead I'm here and I'm okay with that. I want to entertain you. And yes, of course, Marco has dropped a link in the chat, and Deluxe, you know, we talk about Deluxe as an option a lot, and we are going to do a Deluxe show coming up pretty soon. But Marco is one of those people who has probably built one of the most engaging and interesting and excellent gallery experiences on Deluxe. Hey, DDR Freak, good to see you. See, you play the Scandroid, you play the DDR-esque music, and boom, he's in here like a dirty shirt. So yeah, Marco has created this incredibly beautiful gallery that I'm in the Deluxe server, and I often see Steve will be like, oh, holy shit, that looks amazing. So Deluxe is an option as well. But so we were talking about augmented reality. Let's do a quick recap of today's show, which is important. So we started out talking a little bit about Ukraine stuff and, you know, my family history and yada, 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 and talking a little bit about the difficulty in interpreting a massive set of collected data and the differences now and then, the way technology makes us even more uncertain. You know, before, the real problem, yeah, you know what? One of these days I'll probably play Beat Saber on stream. I have not played in months. It will be a disaster. I'm sure people would enjoy watching me flail. You are probably very good at it. Rhythm games, unsurprisingly, are sort of your fucking jam. But so as we moved on in the show, we started talking a little bit more about AR and VR and yada, yada, hooty, yada. But so as this show moved on, I started talking a little bit about augmented reality because that's often a topic that comes up. And I was discussing a little bit about how in previous shows we talked about the capabilities of pass-through cameras on VR headsets and how augmented reality in that form is going to get really wild really quickly. And over today's show, I've been talking a little bit about the opportunities and the way that augmented reality interacts with physical location. We take up physical space. You are ambulating in a meat sack, and that requires a personal space, a connection to standing on a plot of earth in reality on this wildly spinning tiny blue marble rocketing through the universe, right? And so, you know, as technology moves forward, in a lot of cases, we have to use land to build things to occupy, whether that's for living or working or enjoyment. And I was talking a little bit about how auto malls and dealerships drive me fucking nuts. And in a lot of ways, in these spaces where we require a massive amount of inventory in what is a lot of cases a variety of visual styles that needs physical locations, augmented reality would be massively, massively helpful and could help us cut down our actual physical space needs, our locational needs. And then we moved through in the last segment, we started talking a little bit about positive uses of location, like actual geographical location, and augmented reality aspects, like things like locational Snapchat lenses, or, we talked a little bit about some massive failures. If Pokemon Go is so popular, how did Minecraft Earth fail? And that brings us to here. We're kind of 15 minutes out from the end of today's show. Now, Mr. Fatface, I haven't seen you in a bit, and you were asking, did I join the bank run? I actually did. Believe it or not, I actually did. Now, obviously, if you've ever been to this show before, if you've ever heard me talk about self-sovereignty, or you've ever kind of gotten my personal opinions on blockchain and things like that, it shouldn't surprise you. Now, let's be realistic. I don't have a lot of assets in the bank. I really don't. It's the truth. But the first time around, when the first rumblings were happening on the internet, I thought, boy, wouldn't this be funny if this was an actual, wouldn't it be hilarious or informative or terrifying if every Canadian just took out $1,000? And, I don't want to say that that's a privileged statement, but maybe there are, you know what? I don't know. Maybe there are Canadians that wouldn't be able to do that liquid. I don't know. There's probably people in North America who couldn't do that. But so I went and I took out $1,000. No big deal. And then the bank run thing really started gaining steam. And I noticed that the next day, my online banking access was down. And a lot of Canadian banks for about a day, honestly, for about a day, all Canadian banks' online bank access went down. So I went back in and I took out another $2,000. And again, nobody fussed with me. So I don't know if that's just bank tellers are just humans and really don't want to be in the middle of this shit. But you're right. Probably the people at the top of the pile, the top of the totem pole, in a Canadian sort of saying, they were probably pretty fucking unhappy about the bank run stuff. And of course, then crypto went on sale directly thereafter. So I made a brief visit to a Bitcoin ATM. But the reality is, let's face it, I didn't take out any money that in any form was meaningful, but it was very viable in that, I was like, yeah, I can join in on this. I can make this sort of personal statement to myself that fuck you, you're holding my money and not doing anything good with it, viable with it. And also I would like to remind the government and the banks that this is mine and I don't have to let you have it in my hands. So, did I help? No. Did it make me feel good? Yes. Is it always great to kind of take these opportunities to think about self-sovereignty? And, at the same time, not a lot of people have a great plan for if they're going to hold a couple $1,000 cash in their hand. What are you going to do with it? Much like crypto, have you thought about the safety of it? Have you thought about, what your legacy planning is going to look like, etc.? At the end of the day, being informed is important. So, Lax is asking if the bot borked, but of course, depending on where you are watching or listening, hopefully you will get a good experience. And so Mariano's saying that the future, he believes that we're going to have a world full of AR ads and QR codes, and it's going to be intrusive as fuck. Now, this is an interesting thing because part of my thoughts, especially on this aspect, is that augmented reality, we have seen and we often think of in a very dystopian form. And we're right to be suspicious of the way that this technology is used. But this is, satellite is a crazy thing, Lax. You're not on Starlink yet, are you? But so I'm going to put this in here because this actually, I read this article and I thought it was fascinating, and it just kind of leads into everything that we were talking about today. So I'm going to drop this in chat for everybody if you want to take a peek at it. You know, I don't necessarily believe that the future will be the ads that we are used to seeing. And we use this a lot, especially when we talk about those visual ideas and the movies that shape us. We're used to, you know, Neo Tokyo, you step out of your hover car and the entire landscape is plastered with holographic ads that run up to you and zoom by you and you can't turn them off. And I don't necessarily think that's the key. And so I found this, I actually do often go through Ad Week because, of course, I have a soft spot for this sort of marketing game and whatnot. And this article I thought was excellent. It's an excellent article. And it's basically, the TLDR on it is that the way that we think about augmented reality is, it has to be different. And for brands, products, companies, people don't want ads. We know that. Look at the way that ads have changed in the way that we consume media. Everybody has an ad blocker now. Everybody can just tune out. People use subscription services to avoid commercials, things like that. You know, the idea that augmented reality is going to be nothing but an overlayment of ads, I think, is short-sighted. And in a lot of ways, when we talk about the idea of what gets us to buy something, what connects us to a product or to a brand, often it is a brand story. It is the way that these things make us feel. And, you know, I'm going to try not to go too hard on this topic because for me, this is my area of study and this is honestly an area of interest for me. And literally, we could talk about this for days. So I'm not going to dive too deeply into this, but I actually don't necessarily agree. And this article really hit the nail on the head for me. Brand marketing and the way that we understand and identify with brands, the way that we choose brands, the way that we buy things, and the way that we understand products as something meaningful to us is changing. Advertisements don't work and we don't want them. And in that case, when we have a medium like augmented reality, if you guys were here a couple shows ago, I actually talked a little bit about this, you know, a bed brand from Japan. And rather than just sell you a big ad, they create an online showroom where they put their, you know, pieces, these beds that they create, because the idea is this bed is evocative of peace and quiet and serenity. It's made with renewable materials. It's made out of a specific type of wood. And so the idea is, rather than show you an ad, buy a giant ad on, you know, the sidewalk that'll be projected at your feet. The idea is, hey, are you looking, you know, when you go searching to buy a new bed, they say, hey, step into this, you know, experience. And instead of necessarily seeing an ad, yes, exactly. You can step into this serene Japanese forest on the edge of a lake and look at this handcrafted bed model, you know, and move it around and check out all the colors and all the options. And instead of buy, the difference is they're building a brand story. Why was this bed created? What's important to the creators of this bed? What is, like, why should you care? What's it going to do for you? How do you put that together in an experience? And you know what? Whether you like it or not, that's literally on an everyday basis why you choose the products you do. You know, once you get out of just survival mode and you're not just buying things because they're the cheapest, you literally start choosing brands that are not evil, or that align with what you want, or that have an aesthetic that you like, or that have a story that you find great. For example, I buy, and I guess this is going to be a free advertisement. Anybody that don't want advertisements, it's not paid, but cover your ears. So for example, for me, as I get older, I'm always looking at ways of reducing my footprint and, you know, the impact that I have on the earth. Yada, 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 bitches get hippie. But so the reality is I'm always looking to support local businesses as well. And over the last year, I have transitioned to hair care and toothpaste that's created in Canada. So for me, I don't really care. I didn't need to see their ad. I went looking and I found a brand that resonates with me. They're a Canadian brand. They're handmade. They're a couple of travelers. They create toothpaste that doesn't have fluoride in it, but that also is, it's chewable. It's a tiny little glass bottle, no packaging, all renewable. You take a little tablet, you pop it in your mouth, you chew it up, and then you brush your teeth. Everything about that brand story is perfect for me. They didn't have to make a big flashy ad. I said, I need new toothpaste. I don't want fluoride. I found their brand, and the thing that drew me back in is they had this really immersive experience. Here's all the benefits. Here's our brand design. Here's our story. Here's where we come from. And that was like, okay, yes, I'm going to buy this. And that's how everybody buys every product. It's why you choose the apps you do. It's why you use the websites you do. It's why you buy the products you do. So this idea that in the future, we will be immersed in a new augmented reality environment. If there are ads everywhere and they're annoying, it's actually less likely to make you buy the product. We have changed our relationship with ads. We skip them. YouTube now, if you still use YouTube without an ad blocker, they only have 4 or 5 second ads because no one watches them. So they know they've got 5 seconds to show you something and they have to do it in a non-annoying way. It's wild. So, having augmented reality is an opportunity to change the way that we advertise. It's an opportunity to change brand stories. And this article to me was perfect because augmented reality for a lot of, yes, apply directly to the floorhead. It's free real estate. Yeah. So, more often than not, bad advertising now. Things have changed. Before it was like, I don't know what's out there. Show me everything. Ads, 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 ads. That was the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. That's what we wanted. But now we are not like that. We don't want your ads. We don't want to be annoyed. And if you do put something stupid in your ad or, you do something that we don't agree with and we see it in an ad or we see your ads too much, you're gone. You're gone. So augmented reality is this this whole new frontier for this kind of thing. And it will be about brand story. It will be about marketing in a way that is as easy as, okay, I know that I can let somebody with augmented reality voluntarily step into an environment that represents what I have to sell them. Can I make that experience meaningful for them? If you put on your glasses and it's some fucking they live bullshit. Buy. You're going to be like, oh my God, no. It's not going to work. So for me, I'm going to find this really interesting, how big companies actually work on this. Because we as people are different now. All right, listen. So we've really we're on topic, but we're off topic. Today's show has been all about stuff in the real world, physical locations, and augmented reality tied to that, and experiences that we, you, me, together, apart but together, that we have in the real world, and these shared experiences specifically, and also how augmented reality means maybe, for fuck's sakes, we could stop needing the amount of land that we need for certain types of businesses, for certain types of warehousing, all sorts of stuff. So everybody's asking me now, everybody's like, ooh, no fluoride toothpaste. If you want to know about this company, and especially if you're Canadian, Mr. D is over their way. It's a company called Tanit, T-A-N-I-T. And yes, subliminals still exist. I'm not saying it's better. I am saying that advertising will change 1,000%. No doubt. But with that being said, I suspect it'll be more like we already see in terms of movies and whatever else. Product placement will be big. You'll be moving around an environment and you won't even realize that in real life there's nothing on the table, but you're going to walk by a table and there's going to be a can of pop and you're going to be like, ooh, can of pop. Like, that's what's going to happen. But the company, if you want to know, for those of you, like I said, cover your ears if you don't want a free shill. This is my personal shill. It's a company in Quebec called Tanit. They make hair care, body care, skin care. I use their toothpaste because, again, when I travel, it's really easy to take a little jar of tablets. They are awesome. They're no fluoride. They're all natural ingredients. You pop them in your mouth, you chew them up, you brush your teeth. And the other thing I use is their shampoo. It's not a shampoo. It's not a liquid. It is a physical bar. It contains no chemicals, all natural ingredients. I rub it between my hands. I rub it on my head. It works really, really well. It smells good. It's good for nature. All of the packaging is 100% compostable or biodegradable. Like literally even the packing peanuts. When I got the order, I was like, packing peanuts. And then I read it. They're cornstarch. I put them in the sink. I ran water over them. It smelled like Cheetos and they were gone down the sink. So, everything is environmentally friendly. For me, that's a big sell. That's a brand story that I can get behind. Yes, natural ingredients are chemicals. You're absolutely right. Once again. Oh, chopped lamb! 20 seconds before the end of the show. Hey, babe. You would have liked today's. Today's was a good one. But yes, when I say harsh, man-made, unsafe chemicals to the human body, like what's the P chemicals? The forever chemicals. Those. Yuck. Don't have them. They're bad. Anyways, whatever. So, if you guys enjoyed today's show, it got a little more bumping towards the end. I'm glad. I know a lot of you guys watch or listen in silence, and sometimes I'm just a whiny bitch about it. But at the end of the day, it's tough because I always want to grow this. I want to entertain more of you. I want to keep more of you informed and in some cases misinformed. But I am here every Saturday for CyberBuzz. My name is Crimson Clad. The next time you can catch me live for a show like this will be on Thursday night or Friday morning, depending on where you are, for Full Force Radio. You won't learn shit. It's heavy metal. And the upcoming week will be my Femme Fatale playlist that was supposed to be last week. So if you need anything, shoot me a message. Otherwise, I will be back next week, possibly with a Hive-centric show, and there are more shows to listen to. You can go to mspwaves.com to find the full schedule. Otherwise, I am out. Bye!